The first thing we would take up is approval of what tonight's agenda is. So, does staff have any modification suggested to what the agenda is?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I'd like to just make one quick update. This would be under other business, item A, for your voucher request for the pending approval for disbursements. The memo was included in your council packet. We just included the actual report for you, which we emailed to council earlier today. And then also there's a report printed out tonight for people to view if they want to. So that would be the only addition for tonight's meeting.
Okay, anything council suggests that we do to change the suggested agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve what tonight's agenda is?
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All those in favor of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. Okay, next is the consent agenda. Pursuant to council policy, one motion, non-debatable, will approve the recommendation of noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from the consent agenda for separate action. Such items removed from the consent agenda will be taken up immediately following the approval of the balance of the consent agenda. Does anybody on the city council have an item that they wish to remove from the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to remove item C, please.
C as in cat?
C as in cat.
Okay. Anybody else? Is there a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda?
I move to approve the balance of the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. We approved everything but item C. What did we approve? We approved certain minutes from the city council meeting of November 21st. We approved receipt of the Park, Rec, and Forestry Commission minutes of October 24th. We approved receipt of the monthly financial statements from both Robbinsdale Wine and Spirits and the Deputy Registrar. We approved a unanimously recommended variance request for 3605 France Avenue North. We gave the second reading of an ordinance amending City Code Sections 520.03 and 521.01 to allow cannabis retailer as a permitted use in a B2 limited community district and in a DD1 downtown district. And we approved certain licenses that usually come up at the end of the year for the next calendar year, which is 2024. Next, we go to presentations. And, go ahead. I'm sorry. Next, we go to Mr. Murphy, who withdrew item C. That's on pages 10 and 11 of our materials.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this item pertains to the Crystal Lions permit application to do pull tabs at Wicked Wart. So in the past, we have gotten annual reports from these types of gambling operations, notably the Northwest area JCs who operate pull tabs at Broadway Pizza. The concern being, and my concern is outside organizations raising money in Robbinsdale and then spending that money outside of Robbinsdale, and they're supposed to spend a certain amount within, quote, the trade area, end quote. So I don't recall getting, this had been done in the past, but I don't recall getting any reports regarding charitable gambling from the Northwest JCs and how they've allotted the money that they've raised. So that was my one question, is that, but then also making sure that the Lions are aware that I believe it's an annual report of their financials and how they're using their proceeds.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Murphy, to the first question, as to an annual report, that's something we'd be happy to produce to you after the first of the year. So we'll give you a year in review for 2023. These folks certainly are made aware. There is explicit language as to community who serves. I know different nonprofits are able to meet this threshold through different mechanisms. Sometimes a youth association is maybe a little bit easier to do because those are on the ball fields of Robbinsdale, whereas the Crystal Lions Club certainly doesn't exclusively provide services in the city of Crystal, but they were made aware of that, both in their approach to the premise owner, and then when they came to us and working with the state, to get that approval done, they were made aware.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. All right, with that, I would move we adopt the resolution approving the application of the Crystal Lions premise permit to operate charitable gambling, assuming nobody else, has any other questions or comments.
I'll second it.
More discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. Okay, now we go to presentations, and the first presentation is the 2024 final budget levy presentation. We have Dia Tahoon, our finance director, making this presentation.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council, I'll just briefly, as Mr. Toon is getting his setup going there, we will this evening do a presentation prior to actually taking feedback. So you'll see under old business, as we get through public hearings, there will be both one for the levy and one for utility fees. So this is a non-actionable item. This is Mr. Tahoon giving a comprehensive review of the last several months of budgeting discussions that we've had.
So then, after the presentation, which is item 7A, then we have some public hearings about fines on Broadway, Fly Vintage and Vinyl, and Pawn America, about really basically licenses that they will have. And then we'll go to old business, and the first item under old business would be to adopt a resolution pertaining to what the 2024 budget and the levy are, based upon some of this information here. That thing isn't a public hearing, but it's been our practice, and I think that the rest of the council agrees that we will hear from you as to what you think about this budget, if you want to talk about that, and then we'll adopt the budget resolution, whatever we decide, having thought about it from the time we end this presentation through the other public hearings. And then there will be a public hearing on proposed water, sanitary sewers, storm sewers, solid waste, and street light rate increases, and that'll be another opportunity for the public to talk to us about those things. So, the budget presentation from the finance director.
Yeah, Mr. President, council member, we'll start with the presentation of 2024 general fund and debt service levies. We'll go through a certain definition. For estimated market value, this is mainly where we get several phone calls, like the county assessor in Hennepin County are the one responsible for setting the market value. City has nothing to do. For whatever market value, it's determined by Hennepin County. For market value exclusion, mainly like some homes, they have the homestead, and some of them they get the green acres. The homestead, like mainly they exclude portion of the market value, which $413,800, and green acre, certain benefit for the disabled veterans. Taxable net capacity, it's mainly all the tax property values, the tax capacity of tax capacity, excluding the the tax increment finance. Levy, this is where the city need extra fund to meet the debt service and other need, which is added to the property.
So before you go to the next slide, go back to that one.
Yes.
Taxable net capacity is a taxing jurisdiction's total taxable net capacity, and then it says of the properties within the jurisdiction, excluding a portion of the value of property located in a tax increment financing district. So the townhouse development that was talked about earlier today, that's on where the old high school and junior high school used to be, if that was part of a tax increment district, which it is, in order to build that thing at the very beginning, all those townhouses, and so correct me and modify and improve upon what I say if necessary eventually. In order to build that thing at the beginning, there was a tax increment financing agreement, which meant that the amount of taxes that the properties used to pay as a school building and whatever it was is the base tax, and then for a period of time, in order to pay back some of the costs of redeveloping the property, like tearing down the old junior high school and buying properties for a period of time, the extra taxes that that's now generating doesn't go to the jurisdictions like the school district and the city of Robbinsdale and the county of Hennepin and the Metropolitan Mosquito Control District. That extra taxes that someday will help us all reduce our taxes goes into a special economic development authority fund to help pay back the breaks basically to get somebody to come here. And I can't remember with regard to that one if it was a pay-as-you-go situation. I kind of think it wasn't, or just there was going to be a certain amount of relief. So that's a long way to say that this doesn't help us reduce our taxes yet until the costs of paying back what the extra costs of building were, as compared to like a farm field in Maple Grove, which might not need that because there's nothing to tear down. Any nuances I missed or clarity that could be added?
Mr. Mayor, Council, I think that, yeah, that's spot on in that that, as an example, is a TIF district, tax increment financing district, does withhold certain funds that would normally go through this process, but as you mentioned, does not and is reflected in the taxable net capacity.
So only a certain number of years can we get those funds to pay back, and then when the properties or group of properties comes off the tax roll, off of the tax increment financing rolls, then it does, in fact, like the U.S. Bank building property, come back onto the tax rolls for everybody generally and help the whole city. And we've had lots of properties which have done that. Okay, go ahead.
For physical disparity, it's a revenue sharing program in the Twin Cities and Iron Range. Mainly, like some city get benefits, some benefit get hurt because it's a program sharing. Sometimes the city get increase in physical disparity. Sometimes we have a decrease, like every 2-3 years. It's been looking, but it's in general it's beneficial for the small cities. The main point for the 2024 budget, we still continue our current service level. We are using certain level of reserve to make it easier for a resident of Robbinsdale. There's 4 new positions. 2024 proposed general fund levy is an increase of 498,163. The net general fund property tax levy proposes an increase of 6%. Which is one of the lowest rates for the last 3 years. Debt service levy decreased for road construction and other equipment purchased by 34%. We didn't issue any bond in 21 and 22, which is leading to this decrease of the debt service. For HRI levy, there's an increase of 17%, which is we will discuss later for the EDA. For the 4 new positions, we are talking about creating new full-time sustainability coordinator. Also, community development department will look into add a full-time assistant planner. Recreation department will need a full-time recreation coordinator, changing a part-time job to a full-time job, a seasonal one. And also engineering department looking to add a part-time engineering intern. Project revenue, we're planning to be 14,337,622, which increased by 10.41, which an increase of 1,352,330. Local government aid increased by $429,069. Franchise fees, it will be equivalent 528,887, which is split between the general fund and street reconstruction, which is increase of 90,937 from previous year. For fine forfeiture, there is it will be still low. It will be estimated to be 128,000 due to short staff. Permit is in a 5-year average. There will be 225,000 transferred from capital fund reimbursement for engineering staff time on project, 50,000 transfer from solid waste for code enforcement activity, and 50,000 transfer from combination of liquor and license center fund for recreation program. If we look to the city revenue side, we are getting 61% of our revenue from property tax, close to 4% from license and permit, intergovernment close to 21%, and versus between 1% or 4% between transfer miscellaneous charge of service. For the general fund levy, it will be 9,436,519. Those are the list of the general obligation bonds that the city went for and were committed payment for it for the next year, 2015 and 2017, 18, and 20. We had a bond this year, 2023, but it will be reflected in 2025. This is a graph showing how the gross revenue fund, tax levy plus state aid. 2024 levy increased by 392,000 and 500,000. For the 2024 local government aid, we should receive 2,533,996.
So on that, going back to that graph, that shows the gray or whitish part at the bottom shows the state aids that we have received, and you can see how the state aids have gone up or how fast they have gone up. And then the top or the green part shows the property tax levy, what we levy and collect, and you can see kind of how that's gone up faster than the amount of state aids that we've received. You have to kind of manipulate the graph a little bit because it's, anyway, but that shows that really the amount we've been having to tax our citizens has gone up faster than what we're getting from other areas as far as state aids. Okay.
For the general fund tax and debt service, we can see like from 2015 to 2024, it starts with 3,669,221, sorry, all the way to 8,800,883, and for debt service from 425,659 to 635,636. This is between the general levy and the debt service where we are committed for payment.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Could you remind us what was accounts for the large decrease in our debt service? I don't remember, from 2023 to 2024. Was it a bond that we paid off, or?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Murphy. So looking at this graph that you can see in front of you here, I think it's helpful to think 2 years back to the adjustment. So as Mr. Tahoon just mentioned, a general obligation bond that we took out this year is not reflected until 2025. So by trying to identify by year, where you see those $1 million debt service lines, 21, 22, those will be reflective of 2019, 2020.
Got it.
Now, as it was mentioned that for in 2021, 2022, we didn't issue any bond, so that's was one of the reasons why the debt service went down. We didn't issue any bond, and even the one we issue this year will be reflected after 2 years from now. So this will be kind of how to be managing issuing bond and slowing down, so a resident will not get affected much by the bond issuance. For local government aid, you can see from 2015 we used to receive $1,684,82, and in 2024 we expected to receive $2,533,996. In general, there is a slight increase every single year, which is good, except the coming year, which is close to 400,000, which is good for the city.
Which is part of the reason why this year's proposed levy increase is less than, as a percentage, than in the last couple of years, because the state legislature said that we want to give you more money, but we want you to use it to do more things, and we want you to use it to decrease your tax increases, or give, I guess the way they put it is to give some aid or respite to the taxpayers.
For 2024 transfer, it's 14,578 and 408 for the expenditure side. There is an increase of 1,296,957. Includes a cost of living and other compensation adjustment, internal service fund charges, and constant. Large capital purchase planned for future need will need to be financed with capital note, use of reserve, or defer. If we're looking for the city expenditure, like police is getting the majority of the expenditure, like 47% going for the police. 6.95 is going for the fire department, public work 21%, engineering 6.7, recreation 5.43, and recreation and parks. City council 1.115, administration less than 1%, legal 2.61, finance 2.54, community development 4.49%.
So could you go back to that one?
This one? Or
Yeah, I should have asked this question of staff earlier, but no, the one that shows, I'm sorry, its number is page 18, where you were at.
Okay.
So public safety, police and fire, 47%. Police, 47%. Fire, 6.95. Those add up to 50.
5%.
7 and 7 is 14, 54%. But on this thing in the Birdtown brief, so that's 54%. In the Birdtown brief, it's got this picture of this dollar. So is this like a super estimate that, because in this thing it says public safety is 60%, not 54%?
I can look for this one.
Oh, you know, Mr. Mayor, Council, I believe what you're looking at is reflective of the proposed levy, whereas this is reflective of total operations. So as Mr. Tahoon mentioned, this includes revenue from things like local government aid and fiscal disparities. This does not.
Okay.
So the item that you're holding is reflective of levy dollars only.
All right. Okay, very good. So if I was to talk to a constituent, would I tell them that we spend 54% of our money on public safety? Mm-hmm. All right.
Mainly like salaries taking most portion of our salary, close to 74%. close to 23% going other charge, and 3% for supplies. We are planning to use 785,000 from our reserve to make it less impact for the resident. General fund estimated at the end of 2024 to be 7,495,413, which is 51.41% of the proposed general fund expenditure of 24, which will be in the safe side for the city. 2024 tax levy impact before physical disparity is 6%. The total physical disparity allocation increase that we are receiving, it's reducing the impact of the levy by 1.8%. Net spread levy, including physical disparity, is 2.2%. The tax levy impact over the last 6 years on average home is about $518.63, or an average of $86.44 per year.
That's for the Robbinsdale portion of their taxes. Okay.
And we will go through in the breakdown between residential and commercial, how we break it down. So for any residential property in Robbinsdale, the city receives 30.7%, while the county receives 28.1%, and the school district receives the most, actually 35.6%, and others, they are getting 5.6%. Because mainly Measure Colsey assumes the city receive all the property tax, while we are the second actually in the list. For commercial property, physical disparity, they are taking 26%, school district 19%, the city 18%, and the county 17%, state 17%, and other 3%. For the whole of city of Robbinsdale, like 77% is coming from residential, less than 10% from apartment, commercial and industrial account for 13%. Any public comment on 2024 tax levy and budget?
Okay, so I think we agreed that we would do that right, well, I don't care when we do it, but we don't want to do it twice. So I think we were going to do it under old business. Is that true?
Mr. Mayor, Council, staff makes a recommendation that as part of considering those resolutions, you take public feedback at that time.
All right. Okay, so next thing we have is public hearings. And the first thing is on page 66 of our materials, fines on Broadway. This is a request for a consignment and secondhand goods license.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. So we're at that time of year where we go through approvals for a number of licensure things that are set at an annual basis. The first one we have here tonight, there is a requirement per city code to host a public hearing for the issuance of a renewal of a consignment and secondhand good license for Celeste Shahidi, DBA Fines on Broadway. Again, this would be good for calendar year 2024. Staff's recommendation is to hold and close the public hearing and ultimately consider approval of that licensure. Staff would be happy to respond to questions, comments, or concerns.
Anybody? Questions? Okay, so we're being asked to hold a public hearing. I declare the public hearing open on the consideration of approval of a consignment and secondhand goods license for 2024 for Betsy K. Is that the, yeah, no, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. For Shahidi, Celeste Shahidi, DBA Fines on Broadway, 4180 West Broadway. Is there anyone, I'm declaring the public hearing open, is there anybody from the public that wants to talk about this requested consignment license? Secondhand good license, okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I move we close public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries unanimously. And I would think you want us to approve the license. Is that true? Contingent on a successful background investigation.
Mr. Mayor, Council, that is true.
Is there a motion to that effect?
We would take a motion and a vote.
Is there a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'll move that we approve the consignment secondhand goods license for Fines on Broadway.
Is there a second?
Second.
It says contingent upon a successful background investigation. The city planner recommended approval. The police department completed their end of annual investigation and recommended approval. And the fire department completed their annual inspection and recommended approval. Is there any more background why is that contingent part in there?
Mr. Mayor, Council, there are occasions, including this time, where a background investigation is required for the premise and doesn't always get completed before the meeting. That includes going through PD. Frankly, it could have got done this afternoon. I haven't had a chance to go and look through the pile, but as we did publish tonight as the date of the public hearing, we're holding the public hearing with that contingency.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. Next, we go to the public hearing for Fly Vintage and Vinyl, a consignment and secondhand goods license request by the applicant.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. In this continued theme, as noted, this is for a consignment and secondhand good license at 3900 36th Avenue. Would note that the applicant has completed the application materials, submitted all information, and as you highlighted in the prior, the city planner, building official recommend approval. Police department, in this circumstance, did complete the annual investigation, also recommends approval along with the fire department as they have completed their inspection. Staff recommends you hold and close the public hearing and consider the consignment for the secondhand goods for the 2024 calendar year.
So I declare the public hearing with regard to the proposal for a consignment and secondhand goods license for Betsy K. Rupert Khan and Daniel Sung Tak Rupert Khan, DBA Fly Vintage and Vinyl, LLC at 3900 36th Avenue North. Is there anybody that wants to speak at this public hearing with regard to this proposed licensing?
Seeing no one, I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion to approve this secondhand goods and consignment license?
Yeah, I move that we approve the license for the consignment and secondhand goods for Betsy K, Rupert Khan, and Daniel Sung Tak, Rupert Khan, DBA Fly Vintage and Vinyl, LLC at 3900 36th Avenue North.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. Next, we are being asked to consider and approve, I guess, according to the recommendation, for Pawn America, a pawnbroker and secondhand goods license.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. As you note, this is a consideration, again, to hold and close a public hearing for a pawnbroker and secondhand good license. This is for Pawn America's LLC, DBA Pawn America. Again, would be good for the 2024 calendar year. Applicant has completed application, submitted all information for the license application. City planner and building official recommend approval along with the fire department as they had completed their annual inspection. The police department completed their annual background investigation and found no issues. Staff is again recommending that you hold and close the public hearing and ultimately approve the application.
So, any questions or comments from the City Council? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the approval of the 2024 pawnbroker and secondhand goods license for Pawn America Minnesota LLC located at 4134 West Broadway. Is there anybody here that wants to speak to the council about this proposed pawnbroker and secondhand goods license? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion from the city council?
I move we close public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, say no or nay. That motion carries unanimously. Any other motions with regard to issuing the pawnbroker and secondhand goods license?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the 2024 pawnbroker and secondhand goods licenses for Pawn America Minnesota LLC at 4134 West Broadway.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. Okay, now we get to the point of the agenda under old business, we're being asked to adopt resolutions pertaining to the 2024 budget and property tax levies. You previously heard tonight a presentation from the finance director with regard to those things, and here's more information that he is about to present.
Mr. President, council members, the City Council had several budget workshop in September, October, and November to review proposed 2024 budget. City Council adopted proposed city property tax levy of 2024 of $9,602,573 in September, and a proposed HRA property tax levy of 2024 of $323,129 at September 19 in 2023. The county sent notice to the owner of record stating the amount of proposed 2024 levy along with the previous year analysis. The council request to adopt a resolution approving the final 2024 budget and property tax levy. The council cannot increase the proposed general fund levy, which was 8% in September. This time we are planning to go for the first time like 2% lower to be 6% instead of 8%. 1% decrease in the tax levy will affect the taxpayer of $13.97 over the course of the year, where it costs the city. The deficit will go from $240,785 to $323,812. Our recommendation is to adopt a tax levy of 6%, which will bring our tax to 47.54 to be back to the recent year and consistent to stabilize for the physical disparity distribution. By motion, we request waive the reading and order the adoption of 2024 final city levy of $9,436,519 and ordering its certification to the Hennepin County Auditor. By motion, waive the reading and order the adoption resolution, adoption of the 2024 final budget and committing fund balance. By motion, waive the reading and ordering the adoption of resolution adopting the 2024 final HRA property tax levy in the amount of $323,129 and ordering its certification to the Hennepin County.
So we had at our various budgetary sessions an indication of what this would do to the average house and their monthly payment or their yearly payment of real estate taxes attributable to Robbinsdale. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. So again, to highlight a couple things Mr. Tahoon said, this has certainly been a months-long process. as council set the preliminary tax levy, which is reflected on tax statements received by residents. That reflected an 8% proposed increase. At that time, council recognized that it can't exceed that amount, but can be reduced. In the subsequent meetings, have ultimately made recommendation to staff, which is reflected before you here tonight, at a 6% levy increase. We know that that's certainly considerable, but in understanding operations day to day, including everything from staff that we have here at the city to just general operations, from maintenance to capital itself. That is a good number, a number that we're happy with. So that 6% here on page 71 of your materials is reflected under option 3. You can see here, if you look in that graph, the 2024 median valued home in Robbinsdale, according to the Hennepin County Assessor's Office, was at $290,000. This was an increase of 1.4% from last year, where it was $286,000. If you slide across from that bottom line on the left into that box, option number 3, you can see what you're talking about or referencing, the reflection in year-to-year change.
And this levy, for the whole year, the 6% is reflect if someone own a property of $290,000, the reflection is for the whole year is $3.10 for the whole year. This is the effect of
Per month or total?
for the whole year. If per month it will be 26 cents.
Oh, okay.
If someone his property value is 290,000.
So my house and my wife's house, that experienced much more, but that was due to the fact that our house had been evaluated at a certain amount of money and neighboring houses had sold, and all of a sudden our house went up in value a lot faster than the averaged house that ended up at $290,000 because of our neighborhood just going up faster. So while 26 cents per month might be an average for the city, anybody's particular house could go up or down a lot faster than that.
Yeah, this is one point. And second, for comparing to us and other neighbor city, let me try to so we comparing between city of Robbinsdale, city of Crystal, city of New Hope, Golden Valley, Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, we are the lowest tax in all this metro city. Like our levy per population is $629.69, which is way lower than $716.19 in city of Crystal, or $910.15 in city of New Hope, or $1,500 in Golden Valley, $734 in Brooklyn Park, and $729 in Brooklyn Center.
Mr. Mayor, this is page 72 of your packet materials.
Thank you. Okay, so here's what I would suggest. I suggest that we have an informal public hearing where the public can comment upon what they think about this proposed levy and the proposed budget. This is not the part about the fees that comes next. Next will come a public hearing on proposed water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, solid waste, and street light rate increases. Although, you might comment on that here if you want to. And then what we'll do is listen to all the comments, and I would like the staff to write down if there are questions so we can answer all the questions at the end after everyone's had a chance, and that's so we're not answering questions repetitively because people ask the same question, and we're not engaging in a time-consuming back and forth dialogue. So do and go by the guidelines that we have of not taking up more than 4 minutes. So does anybody want to talk to the city council, make your points or whatever with regard to the budget that we're trying to pass here tonight? And if so, step to the mic, name and address. Good, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Gary Bicey, 3835 Hubbard Avenue North. My question is regarding the city budget relative to percentage of taxation that is allotted to residential and commercial industrial. I believe the figures were 61% were paid by residential and approximately 17% were paid by commercial industrial. Is that because of the fact that there's such a small commercial industrial base here?
Yeah, we will partially.
Okay.
We'll get to that because
Is there-
you're maybe there's apartments in there which are really
Sure.
kind of a hybrid between residential and commercial if you think about it.
Sure.
So we'll answer that question.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Yes. Anybody else? The budget? Okay, so let us close that part of the meeting, but answer the question that Gary proposed with regard to the percentages of who pays what.
Yeah,
Maybe we could flip that slide up that he was kind of talking about, if you can find it.
put his away. You have a printout of the presentation?
Is that on a different presentation? Yeah, we could just put it on the bird there.
Mr. Mayor, Council, so I guess to the high level of the question, why is this reflective of the residential versus commercial industrial? And I think maybe was alluded to, how does this compare to certainly neighboring cities and cities throughout the metro? Robbinsdale is very reliant on residential property in that in the neighborhood of 90-some%, our property is residential. We don't have the large commercial mall, we don't have the large industrial plant, we don't have these large tax bases that a number of communities do have. Being a little more than 3 square mile community with a town of 15,000, I sometimes compare to our friends on the northeast corner, city of Vandus Heights, a similar population. They're about 15,000, but they're closer to 9 square miles. And I think that alludes to both the tightness of the property, but not only is there limited developable land, the community is so reliant on what's existing, and what's existing is residential. So all that's to say, the numbers reflected here are not in concurrent with what the percentages of land designations are. It's actually closer to 90% with the residential breakdown, and hopefully that answers what we were looking for.
So that thing that's in the council chambers now, that pie chart that you could see, somewhat unclear, unless my eyes are failing me. Residential, it says percent of tax levy paid by property, and residential properties are paying 77.39% of the taxes levied. Commercial and industrial are paying 12.99%, 13% of the taxes levied, and apartments are paying 9.62% of the taxes levied. So that, I think if you did compare us with other cities, you would see that we have a higher proportion of our taxes paid by residential properties as compared to some other cities. That's somewhat that thing is somewhat lessened or ameliorated by the fact that there's the fiscal disparities law, which takes over the 7-county area certain types of industrial or commercial properties, like the General Mills World Headquarters, probably, and 60% of the real estate taxes that are paid by certain properties. Those properties are going to that city and the school districts that they are in, like if it was in Golden Valley, for example, and 40% goes into the fiscal disparities pool. As a result, certain cities are gainers in fiscal disparities because they don't have a lot of commercial properties, and that's Robbinsdale. We get money from fiscal disparities. In Golden Valley or Bloomington maybe would their properties contribute to the fiscal disparities pool. So this fact that we don't have a lot of commercial industrial to subsidize what we do is somewhat lessened by this fiscal disparities. So that's probably more than what you asked, but that kind of explains part of it. Next, the thing that more people might be concerned about is a public hearing on the proposed water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we're still looking for 3 motions for
Okay.
the last item.
You
Yeah.
would rather have a budget going into next year?
I would,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
I'm sorry, I should not have short-circuited that. Okay, so is there anybody on the city council that either wants to make comments about this or propose a motion adopting our budget?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a few comments. So we mentioned earlier, we had at least 3 different budget meetings as a council. So there were different work sessions where we had the opportunity to ask staff numerous questions about different things they asked for. You noted some of the budget items today. There's like new staff members or whether it's equipment or whatnot. So I don't want you to think that lack of questions from us is because we have not spent a lot of time on this. We have. And we've talked a lot about resident concerns, the emails that we've gotten, the concerns residents have with, fixed incomes and increasing costs. And so that's, I think, reflected well. I can support, we started out at 8%, and we're looking at, we reduced that to 6%. We asked staff to do that, which they did. So I just wanted to share a couple numbers because there's a ton of information. It can be super confusing, but basically last year, 2023, our levy was 9.5 million. Okay, so this year it's 9.7, which is a pretty minimal increase. In fact, I think it's 1.8 increase in the levy. And so it's I know it is an increase, but it's not significant, and I think we spent a lot of time making sure that what we were adding was going to provide value to residents. But I do encourage residents to stay involved and read these materials and look at the different things that staff's asking for, because your input is really important. So we do value it, and we do make decisions based on the emails, phone calls that we get from residents. So I just want to comment that I do support this. I appreciate staff. Our last meeting, we kind of agreed to reduce it a little bit further, and they did that. And I think we're still be able to provide services and pay our employees well to meet the expectations that we have. It's not always perfect, but I can support it, and I look forward to the conversation on the utility rates because I know a lot of people have questions on that. So that's all I have on the budget.
Well said, thank you.
Anybody else?
No, just echo those sentiments. I mean, I think staff did a good job of listening to our concerns and our input, which stems from resident input, and I'm just excited to see the new positions that we're going to be having in this next budget, and maybe we'll talk about more of that next time when we do approve the budget. But I think we want to make sure that staff are treated well because that's who interacts with all of our neighbors, and I think that we're trying to meet that we're making that good balance between being fiscally responsible but also providing a high level of service and providing a high level of compensation, benefits, all of those things. So, yeah, I'm excited to support this.
Anybody else?
Agreed.
Yeah, I do want to thank the staff and the city council. We agreed initially in September, I think it was, that really to make our services the way we needed to make them, that an 8% increase would be in order. And we also took comment from the public with regard to these other things that are going up, that are the water, sanitary, sewer, and those kind of charges, that, you know, that the residents could use some help on their real estate taxes also. And so going from an 8% increase to a 6% increase, even though it wasn't super lot of money for a little city like us, that does affect the tax bill that the residents pay. So we wanted to make sure that we did the best that we could do. I want to thank the state legislature because they gave us more money this year, and we were charged, as I indicated earlier, with being able to do more things and being able to lessen the effects of taxes for residents. So we kind of split the difference there and used some of the money to lessen the amount of increase we would have had in taxes, as the legislature wanted, and some of the money to do more things. We're having 4 more employees this year. It's the first time in a long time that we've done that. First time maybe ever that we had 4 more employees in a year, but we have a low number of employees compared to other cities. I think really we indicated that 4 more employees was really 3.5 more employees, because a half of a position went away somewhere else as a result of a full-time position being added. So really it's 3.5 more employees. And then I am excited about some of the other things we'll be able to do. And some of the things are really demanded by the public. For example, spending more time with code enforcement issues. We don't have enough people to enforce certain codes because of the short staffed, and we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to have more engineering people. We're going to have a sustainability person, and Park and Rec is going to have another person too that'll be able to help us. So not enjoyable to make people pay more taxes, but it's a part of the procedure that's necessary to run a city. And as you could see, 54% of all of the money that we levy is used on public safety, which is a basic city function, and there's other basic city functions that I could talk about too. So there's not a lot of discretionary money in a way. So with that, we have a motion on the table, right?
Not yet,
Not yet.
but I can make one. I move that, I'll do the first one. I move that we waive the reading and order the adoption of the resolution adopting the 2024 final city property tax levy in the amount of $9,436,519 and ordering its certification to Hennepin County Auditor, as shown in Exhibit 3.
What page is that on, Aaron?
69.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed say no. That motion carries. Okay. Then we've been asked to waive the reading and order the adoption of a resolution adopting the 2024 final budget and committing fund balance as shown in Exhibit 4. Is there such a motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Then we've been asked by motion to waive the reading and order the adoption of the resolution adopting the 2024 final HRA property tax levy in the amount of $323,129 and ordering its certification to the Hennepin County Auditor as shown in Exhibit 5. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion with regard to that?
Real quick, I was just going to mention the HRA property tax levy. That is money used by the EDA, or the Economic Development Authority. So we'll purchase dilapidated homes or properties, Might be one on your street or in your neighborhood where the EDA will buy it, tear it down, sell to a developer to maybe build a new home. So that's what the HR does with those funds.
And that's really a sort of, it's more money than I make this year probably, but it's it's $323,000 in the general scheme of all the dollars that we take in is not a large amount of money. So we do a lot with that amount of money.
Yeah, I think we used it like downtown. We did like grants for the different businesses like Hacky Mueller's and Ace Hardware to redo the awnings. So that's what some of those dollars go towards.
All right, so all those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. That motion carries. All right, next we get to a public hearing with regard to proposed water, sanitary sewage, storm water, solid waste, and street light rate increases.
Yeah, the city has several utility rate study analysis starting in 2017, 2020, and the last one in 2022 between LRs and water wars to get the appropriate rate the city can charge, especially with a huge infrastructure project, water treatment plant, reconstruction of Water Tower 1, a lot of street reconstruction. For the 2023, we saw the connection of large diameter water main across railroad corridor and renewal of trunk main along Hubbard Avenue south of 38th Avenue. Work this year also connected the raw water main from well number 5 to the new water treatment plant. New Water Tower 1 construction was essentially completed in the fall of 2023. However, filling the new water tower has delayed due to the issue of supply change, minor electric panel, which we hope like any time. It will be great if it happens this year. If not, it will be delayed in the first quarter of 2024. A proposed pipe work in 2024 will connect North Memorial Hospital to Robbinsdale Water and continue the renewal of aging piping infrastructure through the network. For the water rate, current rate is $7.56 per 1,000 gallon plus capital surcharge of $1.39 and a fixed charge of $12.75. We're proposing a rate of $8.24 per the 1,000 gallon and capital surcharge to be $1.52 and a fixed charge to be $15. This is $3.06 increase per month per average home consumption. For the water conservation rate, the city worked to have in 2012 a tier rate, so encourage residents to reduce the quantity of water they consume. So first tier is going from 0 to 12,000 gallon of water, then 12,000 till 26 for tier 2, tier 3 26,000 till 40,000, and last year over 40,000. So first tier from 756 it will be 824, second tier from 1012 it will be 1103, tier 3 from 1311 it will be 1429, and tier 4 from 1918 to $20.91. For irrigation, we have kind of similar tier, but only 2 tiers. So first tier from 0 to 20,000 and the second tier over 20,000. So the rate will go from $13.11 to $14.29. For tier 2 from $19.19 to $20.91. The implementation of tier was beneficial for the city to have more than 300,000 extra income, which represents 36% of total residential revenue. For the commercial, we had extra income of $50,065, which represents 31% of total irrigation revenue. For sanitary sewer, we proposing a rate to go from $7.59 to $7.74, and a fixed rate to go from $13.14 to $13.40, which is equivalent to 15 cents per month increase. For the storm sewer rate, we proposing the rate will go from $109.99, which per acre, resident mainly use 0.18 acre, which is $19.80. So it will go from the 1980 to 2020, $20.20, which is an increase of 40 cents per month. For the solid waste, we going through the contract, and the contract is increasing by 4%, so the city increasing its rate by 4%. The contract will end with waste management in 2025. For a change in 2025, for organic recycling, we've been reached by Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, MPCA, that if we offer a service for recycling, we cannot discriminate with residents who request it or who don't want it. So instead of charging $9.75 per participant household, we are proposing it will be flat rate of $3.50 for all residential properties.
All right, so just to stop there, with regard to organics, which most people do, maybe 8 to 10% of people do that, we have a garbage can, we have a recycling can in Robbinsdale, we have leaves and things like that, yard waste. That's 3 things. Some people have 4 things in that they pay every 2 months, $19.75 or something like that, for organics, table scraps. And so there's a law that says you can't just charge the people like me that voluntarily do that. You have to charge everybody in the community for that. So starting in 2024, residents are going to pay for organics, whether they for organic recycling pursuant to law, whether they do it or not. So you might as well get a can and do it. It can be a pain in the nose because it's a messy thing to do, to take your table scraps and put it in a separate thing and manage that until next Wednesday, which is the day that it comes. And so, but you're going to be paying for it whether you do it or not. So that's kind of the point you were making on that. And you were going to say something, Tim?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council, I think this has gotten some attention recently. We're not the only city that's navigating this. A lot of the cities around us here in Hennepin County are each taking it on differently. Like you note, statute that was passed some years ago specific to recycling is being observed. The MPCA offered their interpretation earlier this year, and we've ultimately come to the conclusion, like I say, with other cities nearby us. In Hennepin County, cities are required to offer organics collection. Now with the MPCA's ruling, because it's offered, or required to be offered, even charge must be passed along to all residents as not to either discriminate or discourage those from participating. So we're navigating it. This is a first rollout. So we intend to, depending on how we go this evening, work on getting notification out via USPS as early as tomorrow. We've got communication ready to go. So recognizing this will be a change, and we'll continue to work with residents on that.
It is a challenge to get people to voluntarily do the 4th thing, which is organics recycling. I've offered my organics can, which we pay for, my wife and I, to neighbors. They could just use it for free, and people kind of don't want to do it. But to the extent that you can and do recycle your organics in the prescribed way, you're helping the earth because those products go back into some kind of a fertilizer that we can use, and they're not burned and they're not buried. And you're also helping us with our future garbage because we will have less tonnage and we won't have to pay so many tipping fees in order to get rid of our garbage wherever we bring it. So that was a digression from your presentation. Thank you.
One thing.
The rate we are.
Wait a minute,
Can I-
Aaron's got
Yeah, if
something.
you just want to maybe, Tim, do you know like where the organics recycling ends up? That might be also useful for people to know, since we're required to do this now.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Wagner, I'll have to get clarification on the end product. I know there's been question as to whether or not this could be observed through like a revenue share, being an end product that might have some value for sale. We're not at that point yet, but as collection increases, that's certainly a possibility. So, like I say, this is brand new to us, and we'll be sure to get more of that information out.
Cool.
So our previous Green Corps person, Abby, arranged a tour of the Medwickin Sioux, their facility that they have for this. And we went out to the South Metro in Dakota County and went there, and they have a lot that they do. I think part of ours at least winds up there. And what it does is it takes all of that material, the organics, and heats it and dries it and churns it and puts it out, and then it turns into fertilizer that people can put on their, mostly in their farms. But other people, you could just come out and buy some and bring a trailer out and do that. So that's where it ends up. But that's, I don't know if the Medwickin Sioux do all of ours, but they do part of it at least.
Okay, interesting.
Our cost, by the way, is way higher than $3.50, but we try to encourage residents to get more residents to be involved with more going green and being beneficial to the environment. So this is our goal with the $3.50. For street light, we proposing the rate to go from $1.80 to $1.89 for a light code LO1, and from $3.72 to $3.91 for a light code LO2. For anticipated overload like residential utility billing, we estimate if someone is using 4,000 gallons of water, his bill will get changed by $8.24 per month. For automatic payment plan discount, utility customer have an option to pay bill by from their checking or savings account using automatic payment plan, in which the city utility billing payment vendor invoice cloud submit an electronic file using the automatic clearing house. We see more than 47% of utility customer are using this option. Some customer are paying the bill using bank bill pay method. They submit a paper check to the city for the payment. Average charge for this one is $57 per month, and approximately 305 customers are using this option. It's kind of briefly about the major rate increase that we have.
So, a general question, if I was a person, which I am, that pays for this kind of thing in the city of Robbinsdale is, why has my bill gone up so quickly in the last few years? What are the factors that do that? And as compared to other cities, are we charging more than people in similarly situated cities would be paying?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. So to where I'd want to start with, as Mr. Tahoon noted, on page 80 of your materials here, we try to do a breakdown of what the typical resident utility bill in Robbinsdale will be. Currently about $141.20 per month. Of course, we're billed bi-monthly, so your bill would reflect double that. That's based on 4,000 gallons of water a month, a 64-gallon garbage container, average winter sewer of 3,000 gallons. The increase from year to year would be from $141.20 to $149.44. That's an increase of $8.24 per month. So that's the high-level breakdown. Of course, typical, not everybody uses the same amount. A lot of this plays into philosophy, as Mr. Tahoon talked about. The council some time ago adopted a tiered rate system. So as people continue to use more water, whether for watering the lawn or whatever it may be, filling a swimming pool, exceeding certain thresholds, you start to pay additional for. Mr. Mayor, to your question first about what does this go towards? Largely it's infrastructure, it's nuts and bolts. Robbinsdale is a community that some make the claim as the first suburb of Minneapolis, which means we have 100-year-old pipe system that we have to address. Looking at the old, we also look at the new. Recently completed water treatment plant, recently completed water tower, and both of these are items that tying in old system to new system cost dollars to repay. How we compare to our neighbors, you know, I think there's sort of an apples to apricots. I'm always happy to walk through people. Again, you know, it depends on philosophy and to how communities do this. Some communities have much lower rates based on a higher levy. Again, here in Robbinsdale, the philosophy has been those that use more water, those that produce more for, say, the storm sewer system is broken down here, they contribute more to that. So it's more of a user fee for some of these things. Whereas other communities, again, you know, it's a philosophy, right or wrong, have the approach of spreading those across, so those increases between tiers are more limited. I guess, you know, those are kind of the high-level things that I would point to. I think there's maybe some specific questions that either council or the community would like to get into, and I'd be more than happy to take some notes. Of course, before, if council has any immediate questions, I'd be happy to respond.
So council, do you have any immediate questions or comments before we open this up for a public hearing? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing on the proposed water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, solid waste, and street light rate increases open. If there's anybody from the public that wants to address the council on this item, again, please take your 4 minutes, step to the mic, name and address, tell us what you want to tell us. We will, again, write down all of your questions and then try to address them all at the end to the extent possible. So, is there anybody that wants to speak to the council on this item? Thank you.
Hi, Melissa Benson, 3915 Noble Avenue North. Just a quick question on essentially the composting. With those containers that you would purchase to participate, since we're going to be paying for it anyway, are they animal proof? I've got a lot of hungry squirrels and bunnies that like to get into things. Is it like a compost barrel? And where do we purchase these things?
We can answer that. The answer will be good for you.
Okay.
But there are squirrel holes in mine. Keep going. Anything else?
So I guess I am a pretty new Robbinsdale resident. I moved in July of 2022. And I'm just curious, how often do these utility rates generally increase?
Okay.
Oh, no. Okay, so these are just questions I'm giving out, and then we'll get answers later?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now I understand, like, the kind of the increases in all of the costs are more going towards, like, the water treatment plant and the new water tower. That makes sense. And I heard there was, like, an average 140-ish per month cost for the utility bill, so then that would be $280 every 2 months. Okay. And then idea is it would be less than a $10 increase per month or $20 every 2 months, so probably about $300 every 2 months is what we should be expecting. I guess the reason I bring this up, and I kind of wish there was a little bit more transparency in our login. It's like if I didn't keep all the emails from previous city bills, I wouldn't be able to print up and compare what is my water usage. I'm a single person, and my usage started off at 5 and got up to 19. And I, unless that's maybe a utility question I send off to the utility email, I know some people are like, oh, you probably have a leak or this and that, and it's, I'm not running my dishwasher every day. I'm not doing loads of laundry every day. I know that it's been drier in the summer months, and I do water, but that would make sense in the summer months, so not so much in these other months that I was comparing. So I guess it would just be nice to have maybe a better snapshot of, per month this is, or per billing, instead of just having this one-time link that you go to that kind of shows you your usage or trends or ideas to lower that amount, because it's a lot. One of my last bills was $380, and I'm like, I'm one person, and on the Birdtown page, people are saying I'm a family of 5, and we don't even come close to that. So, just some things I wanted to air out. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and stick around for talk about your questions. Anybody else?
Fran Lyles, 4401 Robin Avenue North. I do have a question about storm drainage and about, is this the same for everybody, or is there different charges for different people? How do you determine what that is?
You're talking about storm drainage and
I'm talking
not
about the storm drainage. Mine's like $40.
Okay.
That's for 2 months.
All right, yeah.
So is that the same for everybody
we can answer that, yeah.
after?
Yeah.
Hi there, Katie Troy, 3840 Hubbard. I have a couple questions. The new garbage thing, who's requiring that? Is that the state? So everybody this year is doing that? The whole state?
Yeah, we'll answer that, yes.
Okay. My question is waste management. I know we pay Robbinsdale for their service. Have you ever tried to call waste management because they didn't pick up your trash or anything? And it's 45 minutes on hold, and then you still don't get anybody? Is that the only option that we have is waste management? Have we looked into other
Providers, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Old Republic seems to be cheaper.
Right.
So do we do that yearly, or where are we at with that?
It's coming up, but we'll tell you about that too.
Okay, good. And of course, I do have, as we all know, my water bill situation, but I'll let others talk about that. But I do have just a comment about the taxes. I didn't get a chance to. It was kind of closed before then. It's like this, it's not even your fault. It's statewide, county, every county's the same. I purchased our house in 2019. I paid $3,200 a year in taxes. I now, for 2024, is $5,300. And my value, yeah, I probably could sell my house for what my value of $400,000 is today. My question is, though, is that when I was looking at the average, what is proposed, what people say the average house value is in Robbinsdale, does Hennepin County come up with that, or how's that value determined?
Okay.
And the reason I ask is I thought, not everybody's value goes up the same. And, you know, it's been like that since I was a kid. My grandmother's house, she didn't pay any taxes, and the estate got a ton of money at the end. But my point is that if we somehow, we live in different times. We didn't have the internet when she owned a house. You know, we have internets, we have Zestimates, we can hire people to go around and actually give actual valuations. And I'm just wondering if we did that, it'd be more fair across the board. So that's just a comment that I had. I'll let everyone else talk about the water bills now.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mayor and Councilman, my name is Randy Volker. I live at 4040 Grimes, Robbinsdale. I guess I'm speaking about the water and utility increases. Just a few questions. Since we now own our own well, we're not beholden to the city of Minneapolis for their increases, right? We own our own well.
We always have.
Okay. So we know what our fixed costs are for the well and the water that goes into our pipelines. Why are we increasing the water bill? We know our costs, unless we're paying our utility service folks a lot of money. Why should that number increase? What am I getting for the additional money that you're asking me? Water, by the way, is terrible. It stinks. With North Memorial coming online, shouldn't that drop the cost, unit cost? How is that reflected in this discussion? One thing that struck me, a little puzzled me, was the streetlight comment. Why are we increasing costs for streetlights? No, I don't have a streetlight nearby me. But it puzzles me that why a streetlight should increase. So, just a few thoughts. People have addressed the service issues relative to waste management. I just had supper with my brother-in-law who lives up in Rogers, and he's having the same situation. Just a thought, but it also requires us as citizens to hold people accountable for service delivery. So, just a thought. People have addressed, hey, 45 minutes on hold, missed services, the lack of accountability for our yard waste this year is just an example. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Maria Maya, I live on 4028 Grimes Avenue North. I'm actually Randy's next door neighbor.
And what was your last name, Maria?
Amaya.
Okay, thank you.
And I too am a new resident of Robbinsdale. I purchased my home last April, and I received a tax estimate for 2024 of a 34% increase to my taxes. So just pointing to the environment and our economic status, also the impact to our citizens related to the increase on those rates, and then also noting all of the challenges with the increase to our utility bills. I just ask that you take into consideration just all of those mounting economic challenges that we now face. Another thing I wanted to maybe ask around the compost is what is being offered to citizens in exchange for that additional service. I never really understood the whole composting. I tried it, but it is really gross. But how does the community get something back from that service? Could a lot of my neighbors do their own gardening? Could we have access to that compost? just to encourage that activity, but also to give something back to the community and the taxpayers. Just something to think about.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ross Nova, 3605 France. Welcome to Robbinsdale, by the way, and to you too. Yeah, I was just wondering, I like to make money, not lose money. I was kind of following off hers. When they collect the compost and he say goes to the area where they burn it, change it into dirt, does that get sold back to the city, or does that, who has access, like what happens to that exactly? Because why not keep it myself, keep it for a few months, and then turn it into dirt myself and then sell it? Instead of spending $3 a month or every 2 months, I'm not sure what that is. I'd rather keep that if I'm gonna go the extra mile of, composting, I'd rather just keep that and then sell it to anybody in my neighborhood versus, because there's a lot of crazy gardeners out there, I know. I'd rather sell it to them instead of giving it to the city that may make profit. We don't really benefit from that. So I guess my question was, what happens to that dirt? Is that free, or does that get sold to private citizens for their gardening? So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Gary Bicey, and I still live at 3835 Hubbard Avenue North. I am in opposition for your rate increase for the utilities and the garbage. I guess one of my personal comments is our water rates have been exorbitantly high for so long. And I understand infrastructure repair. I get that completely. However, I think the sins of the fathers are being laid upon the present residents. A lot of that infrastructure should have been taken care of in the past. And I know you're all residents here and we're all on the same team, but I think that some of our residents in Robbinsdale are going to struggle with those increases as they do increase. To address an issue that was brought up earlier, I have a survey in a pile here that is from an engineering firm in Maple Grove, Allied Engineering and Environmental Services. You contributed to that survey for water rates, and it was presented to you 3 or 4 weeks ago during an open forum, which I wish would have been presented to the public, because I think we'd have more people here discussing this at that time. And it clearly shows that the water rates in Robbinsdale are significantly higher than anywhere else in the metro area. And I believe you discounted that survey, Mr. Administrator. And I'm curious why you said that, since you contributed to that survey, so you should probably believe in the results thereof. That survey says that our water rates are significantly higher than most places, sometimes 5 or 6 times higher than communities of similar size, okay? And I don't know why that has to be necessary. And an added increase on top of this it kind of smells of no fiduciary responsibility to me to a degree, because the amount of money that you were taking in the past should have been managed to take care of some of these. There's a lot of cities that are using extensive franchise fees to build savings accounts, so to speak, so that it helps the residents moving forward with a lot of these expenses. Our bill is, like, a monthly bill for us is 4 times higher than it is in Blaine on a monthly basis. And we water, yes, we do, but the property that we look at in Blaine was also watering, to a degree larger than we were. One of the things that somebody mentioned earlier that I would like moving forward, and that is that we need more transparency regarding these water rates and how they're being charged out. I would also like to agree with the gentleman who mentioned that an increase by our waste management company is an insult to me based on their lack of service. I'm in a service-oriented business, and if I provided service like that, I wouldn't have customers. And for them to come to us with an increase doesn't really say that we have our handle on that. I mean, I understand that getting a new trash carrier is not just a thing that happens on a day or a week or even a year. You have to go out for bids on those 3-4 years in advance so that the company that you're going to enlist in those services has time to build up the infrastructure that they need to be able to provide that service. I understand that. So maybe that's not on you so much as it is on us to be a little bit more responsible in making more calls to that company when we are dissatisfied so they have an idea of what's going on in the market, because I don't know if they really do sometimes. Do the commercial businesses in this community pay the same rate for water as I do in my house? Are things going to change when North Memorial comes online? And if so, are they going to pay the brunt of what they are paying, what they should be paying? Also, I guess I would question whether or not they're being taxed at the same rate I am, because they are in fact a city unto themselves. And they're a large employer in this community, I agree, but a lot of those people do come from other communities, and they don't benefit Robbinsdale per se. I don't know when that comes online, but I guess I would like to watch that to see how that affects us. That's all I have for you this evening. Thank you very much. And I promise not to be at this microphone again tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Okay, so at this point, a motion to close the public hearing would be in order.
Move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. So we have a list of questions from the residents. I assume that you're probably going in chronological order, having written down the questions, and then we've written down them, and we'll tell you if we think you, Mr., should expand upon something.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. This circumstance may be unpleasant, but I thoroughly enjoy engagement. Want to start with that, and I'll end with that as well. If there are things that staff can respond to, if there are questions, we're a phone call or an email away. It's a challenge for me, admittedly, to be able to engage with as many people as I'd like to. So I hope people walk away feeling that that's an open avenue to people that maybe haven't explored that in the past. For the first item, there was a question about composting. Are they animal proof? How are rates increased? So the composting bins, and this will be out notification that we'll get out, like I say, as soon as, well, certainly by the end of the week, to our mailer, and we'll start social media, those other components as well. You'll contact our utility billing, and we'll get a bin delivered to you. Much like your garbage bins, they're squirrel proof to the best that they can be. There was the question of, is the reflection of the average 280 to 300 per month? That's fairly close. The question as to the individual water usage, that's tough to say. I don't have the software here to pull up anybody's individual usage. So when folks have questions about that, if they're able to call or email the utility department, we can respond to that directly. We have put in some clauses for high usage, that if people do have a leak, or if people have an unusual circumstance where, say you typically use 2,000 gallons in a month and it goes to maybe 12,000 gallons in a month, that a letter or two is sent almost immediately. We do, in fact, go as far as knocking on doors, that if that continues, that it's something that we're able to catch.
So if somebody went from 5 units to 19 units, if they came to the city, you could probably explain why, and if there was some anomaly, then there would be further investigation for a leak or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And Mr. Mayor, I think that was to most of the points for the first individual. I'm not sure if council had further follow-up on that one.
I will just comment on the squirrel proof. I've been really impressed. I've really enjoyed composting service since I enrolled, I think, a couple years ago, and when we started that in Robbinsdale. I feel we're really lucky to have that service available to us. I've never had a squirrel bite on my can, but my yard, or I'm sorry, not my yard waste, but my regular solid waste does for some reason, which is odd. So I can attest, I don't know if I have some secret. You mentioned you have some squirrels getting into yours, but just using the regular compost bags or paper bags. So maybe I'm lucky, but.
Well, on that one, we keep our garbage cans in our garage because our house was built in 1990, so we have room, having planned for that. But I understand, having lived in a 1938 house, that sometimes you don't have room, like we didn't, to have your garbage cans in the garage. So the squirrels have only chewed on my handles because it's hardly out. We go through the pain of my wife. We put our compost in the freezer so it doesn't stink. And so there's better solutions than that, which are these things under the counter that are buckets that you can, and you probably do that. Yeah, it's a challenge, but it's worth the effort.
I agree.
Were you going to say something more?
That's it.
Okay, was that just were your answers just talking about the first person, or were you, oh, okay, all right, good.
Mr. Mayor, Council, if there's no further questions on the first, I'll move on to the second.
Well, there was a common theme with the first person, if that was Melissa, of, which we'll get to, of more transparency. Other people mentioned that too. But do that in due course whenever you get there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. So the second item really hit home on storm drainage. Is the rate the same for everybody, and how do we determine that? If you look at the utility fee schedule here, currently we charge $109.99 per acre per month, and how that's reduced to individual homes. All individual residences, single-family homes, are charged at 0.18 acres. That's a best estimate, so some are certainly bigger than 0.1 acres, some are a little bit smaller, but that average equates to $19.80 per month. The proposal is an increase of 40 cents per month to 2020. The acreage fee.
So all houses are charged the same fee for storm drainage?
That's correct.
Okay.
The acreage fee, the reason that there's specifically called that out, there are a number of properties that incur a much higher fee. Thinking in terms of commercial and nonprofit, those that have a lot of impervious surface, parking, structures, whatever it may be, they incur a much higher rate. Council was actually approached by some local nonprofits asking for a rate reduction. But again, that was turned down due to the philosophy that this is a user fee. Those are folks that are contributing more. They have more paved service. For their organization to function, they need more parking. But what that means is their property puts a lot more rainwater into the storm sewer system after an inch of rain compared to a single-family home. So single-family homes are on one. Commercial, industrial continue to follow the REF calculation. Again, that's in the utility rate. If people have questions about that, I'd be happy to walk through that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
And then those fees fund the storm drainage fund, which, for example, Hubbard had a recent project, and so those funds would be allocated to that project to help pay for that new infrastructure, correct? Would be an example of what that's for.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely correct. So maybe that's a good example, and maybe that's one of two that are good examples when we talk about increasing transparency. When we go through large projects like that, we're required to go through an RFP process, a request for proposals, and then the city takes in bids. And in those bids, there are line items for what are proposed by the workers. These are all opened publicly, and it's awarded to what's called the lowest responsible bidder. So we take the lowest bid, do our due diligence, and ultimately council approves that kind of work. So we would have gone through that this last spring for this work done on Hubbard, France this past year. Another one that I call out to folks that you might live on a hill and the rainwater doesn't puddle up much, but at the bottom of the hill it does. And this was very reflective into the area that some people affectionately or not so much called Lake Chowan, the place that used to flood on the north side of Sanborn Park. This was a project that is years in the making and ultimately not exceeded, but was close to $2.5 million to get the proper infrastructure that, had to replace something that was there that was more than 100 years old, was of like a corrugated metal. So not only was it old, it was improper, and very comprehensive. So if you were 2 blocks up, you might not have noticed it, but for something like that, that kind of work is very expensive. Again, when we talk about transparency, that goes through a full bid process. Council approves those items. And if people ever have questions about, what's the project cost or what's going into that, we do put this stuff on the website. I know that's not always easy to find, but a quick call to City Hall and we can always point that out to you.
Okay, anybody else? Keep going.
Keep going?
Yep.
The next question was, who is requiring organics? So there was a rule implemented by Hennepin County some years ago that cities were required to offer organics collections. Robbinsdale, like a lot of neighboring cities, opted for a opt-in service. So those who wanted to participate, they paid the full fee for that. The MPCA this past year issued a ruling stating...
The MPCA is the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct. MPCA, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, issued a ruling to Hennepin County that essentially said, based on language specific to recycling at one time, there's a statute that says if you offer this service to somebody, it can't be at a different rate than everybody else. What that means is same thing to encourage recycling back in the 70s and 80s. This is an effort to encourage people to go through this process. This is not a city mandate. This is something that was issued to us and a number of other cities. If you look, I know Crystal, New Hope, Plymouth, they're all taking it on a little bit differently. We're taking a first swing at it in that we're not charging what the full fee is, but we have to charge everybody the full fee based on that statute and that ruling. So what that means is going forward, we'll reevaluate as we go through a year and see how many people participate. Now, all this may change, depending on interpretation, and if the county and the state get enough feedback that people aren't happy with that's at the level where that would change, not at the city. As I'm looking at my notes.
Well, I don't know which person you're on, but is waste management the only option as far as a garbage collector?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. So the next question from that individual is waste management the only option? So that was alluded to, it is correct that the city goes through, again, an RFP process, a request for proposals. The last one was executed in 2020. That was a 5-year contract. When yard waste was especially a challenge last summer, we evaluated what our options were. One option that was not favored by council was to completely go away from organized collection. What that means is an unlimited, I'm sorry, you can't hear? Can you hear me? Okay. Well, that's the good sign, thank you. I'll speak up. So last summer when waste management had some serious issues with yard waste, and it wasn't just waste management, but that was reflected here in Robbinsdale, we went through, staff presented to council what those options might look like to get out of the current contract. One of the options would be to have no organized collection, and what that means is not an unlimited, but 6, 8, 10 trucks going up and down, and that's 6, 8, 10 trucks for refuse, recycling, yard waste, and ultimately they didn't want to go away from organized collection. Understanding that last year's unemployment and labor participation rate, especially in the CDL realm, was so limited, we looked out. We went through, specific to yard waste collection, an RFP process. So we went through that. The quotes we got back were at 3 times that rate. So all that's to say that, we continue to explore what those options are. We recognize that things are not perfect, but we'll continue to utilize the caveats that we can to, whether it's through liquidated damages or otherwise, ensure that they're doing what they need to be doing. Next year, next year, 2024, we'll start the process for the next RFP. And that was the next question. There was a question about home value, and does Hennepin County come up with a median value home? That is true. And how they do that There is some aggregate work that goes into that, but Hennepin County, the assessor's office does literally go out in the neighborhoods and go through assessments. Sometimes that you'll see like real estate agents out taking photos similar to that process. Sometimes they'll use, the city is required to send monthly like building permits. So if you put a new garage on your property, if you make a major investment, that's reflected to the county. So the assessor's office does go through those individually. Again, there is some aggregate in some circumstances, but that's how they go through that process.
Let me add too, we used to have our, not in the too distant past, less than 10 years ago probably, we had our own city assessor that was an employee here, and that assessor would assess your homes. Every 5 years, you're supposed to get into every home. Everybody doesn't let you, the assessor, into the home. We went with the Hennepin County assessor that we would pay them because we could get rid of one employee, thus bring our expenses down, and at a lesser cost. Even though we pay something for the Hennepin County assessor, it's lower than what an employee would be. We have a special person assigned to us. It's probably a team of two, but the person knows Robbinsdale intimately. You're required by the county and state law to hit 94 or 90. You're required to be between, I believe, maybe it's 95% and 105% on average of your assessment, so that the sales data, when you look back over last year and the sales that occurred this year, you have to have your assessors hit between, it's either 94 or 95% and 105%, because if we were assessing ours at 100% and Edina was assessing theirs at 80%, they'd be paying less real estate taxes to the county, on a citywide basis. Our people hit like 95%, and that's wrong, but it's like 94.6 or 95.5. Our people are just right on. Now that does not mean that your particular property was properly assessed. I mean, there are on average great results, but individual properties might be way off because maybe the assessor didn't know that you had upgraded to granite and tile and hardwood floors and whatever. So we do have a process that's pretty good, although not perfect. And then a lot of times, like say my property was subject to a big giant increase this year, like it was, and I could complain like, well, why is my property going up so much? Another way for me to think about it would be like, oh, for the past years, they're probably just catching up now. For the past years, maybe I was like under evaluated and therefore paying less real estate taxes than I was supposed to. So the only real question when you come in and talk about your assessment, other than did the city council spend too much money and tax me too much in the Robbinsdale School District and Hennepin County, the only real question is, was my property properly assessed? Was it valued at the correct amount? So I'm paying the correct amount compared to everybody else.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just a point of clarification. Earlier when we were talking about our levy and how it would affect an average home, that has nothing to do with the market value established by the county. It was purely to show just an average home, here's what the increase might look like. So I just want to make sure those are two different things. It might have been what you were asking, but I just want to make sure you understood that what we talked about our levy and how it'll affect a home is purely just an average home. I forget the dollar amount of that home.
290,000.
290, yeah. So for a home of that value, this is what it would look like, but it has nothing to do with our levy. The county, we get a report, I think it's in April, where they give us a report and show us actually a booklet of all the homes that they assess, and they go to different parts of the city every year. So just wanted to clarify that. That's a good question, though.
Continue,
Thank you,
please.
Mr. Mayor, Council. So on to the next, there was the comment of, we know fixed costs One of the things that I share with folks, the increases in are often reflective of both labor and materials. So the folks, whether doing the installation of the new piping, those that are actually working at the water treatment plant, these are folks that year to year, we incentivize people to stay with the city of Robbinsdale. They make a step increase, so their wages go up. Council will consider a part of the budget a COLA, or a cost of living increase, but also materials. We saw materials across the board for all sorts of things in the last couple of years just go bananas, and that includes the pieces that are required to make infrastructure. So I think we have some best guesses. A lot of that's reflected in our 10-year CIP or capital improvement plan. That's something that council will review in 2 weeks, that we'll approve again. We approve this 10-year plan every year, but we see reflections in that change. In that, again, materials change. And that includes everything from infrastructure specific to water, to the streets, to, again, a variety of capital to include rolling stock. So costs aren't always fixed to predict that far out. The other thing I would add, even in the last 2 decades, water consumption has gone down, and we can do our best guess, but we don't know when people will install, low flow and what have you. So as less water goes out and costs increase for both labor and materials, there's an alteration to that. The last 2 years has certainly seen an increase to reflect the new infrastructure that's gone in. This was more than a decade process. Council had a very involved process with the community, and while I certainly recognize not everybody in the community may be in favor of the new water treatment plant or the new water tower, those are items that the city has to pay for. So again, it would just reflect again the infrastructure, the costs, and the labor that it takes to continue to implement those are largely what's driving those increases. There was the question as to North Memorial coming online. Shouldn't that reflect cost? As we have here in our report, we've noted the goal is to have them come on next fall. We still have some infrastructure that we need to literally tie our system into them. We're working with them currently on that. Again, the goal is here third quarter of 2024, and it is fair to say that it will reflect cost once they are online.
So maybe we won't go up as fast, but we're not going to go down because North Memorial comes in.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not at a point to suggest that.
All right. You don't know, in other words.
That's another way to say it.
Okay.
The question as to why the cost for streetlights, again, labor and materials for neighborhoods. I guess philosophy similar to why everybody contributes to parks is why the community contributes to street lighting. There are certainly areas that people find it more valuable, less valuable, and again, this is just a reflection of year-to-year increases.
So, yeah, Xcel Energy has raised electric rates by 9% or something like that too, so that goes into that also.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, the last 2 items I had here on that were the service issues with waste management. Again, we certainly recognize those. We continue to navigate as best we can. Yard waste, we did get some questions at City Hall about why it ended when it did. The service increased this year because the waste management was able to take on some subcontractors to do that hauling. Those subcontractors were on a contract through the week of the 15th, which is what our current contract with them say. In years like last year, when there was snow on the ground the first week in November, that was fine because all the leaves were down. But because those subcontractors were off at that point, we weren't able to throw together additional drivers to service the entirety of the city. Recognizing that it wasn't a perfect solution, that's why we did offer some additional collection up at Public Works. I haven't got the final tally, but I know we got a lot of cubic yardage collected that way. So we certainly apologize. Those silver maples really hung on to their leaves longer this year, but again, with those contracts being written 4 years ago, that was difficult to predict for.
Anybody else on that one?
I'm sorry, but you did mention on streetlights that increases is for those residents that request additional streetlights. So it's not for those that currently exist that there's going to be increase in the bills.
Good point.
So it's, if, like in an alleyway or in a street, if somebody requests an additional one, that's what that fee is for.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Murphy, that spot on. City provides a mid-block street light as requested by petition for homeowners. If folks might be interested in that, then we'd be happy to explore that further. Continuing on, let's see, in my spot here. There was a comment specific to an individual property tax. Again, whether it's your rates on utilities or your property tax, it's difficult to respond to. If we can, we'd be more than happy to connect here at City Hall and look at if there was a inaccurate reflection, as the mayor noted. Sometimes those through the assessor's office are not accurate. Would also note, of course, as all folks know, the city is responsible for about a third of your property taxes. So those outside organizations would be happy to take a look and see what's going on there. The comments as to externalities and when council makes these decisions, I as staff would note that this council deliberated for months on all of these issues. These aren't decisions that they make haphazardly. I maintain both the levy and utility fees are one of the most complicated and difficult things that a council has to do. So I don't think that was suggested, but I just want to hammer that home, that this is a really complicated process and looking out, and it's not an easy decision for council. And I know they do it with the due diligence that they do. There was a question about revenue sharing potentially through the organics collection. We're just not at that point yet. It's a good question, and if we get to a point that we can, I hope my explanation earlier shares why we can't not, that's a double negative, why we're unable to remove a fee per individual. Again, this is per state and county rules, and unless that changes, that's where we'll be at for now. I note, and I shared some of this with council, with the HERC, the trash burner downtown Minneapolis going offline in the next number of years. It's going to force Hennepin County to look at some technology increases. Ramsey, Washington, on the other side of the metro, they partner for a lot of their disposal, including organics. And one thing that they've taken on that's pretty cool, they have a optical separator. Essentially, you put your organics in a specific bag that goes into your trash. Your trash goes down the conveyor belt, and it's blown off, that it sees the blue bag or the green bag. So you don't have to have that extra bin. Nobody's forced to participate if they don't want to, but Hennepin County's just not there yet. So that's all in the future. What's to come next? I'm not sure, but I guess hopefully that explanation covers that.
Yeah, one thing I could say is that to the extent that Midwacket and Sioux charge for example, in their organics program, a tipping fee of X dollars, to the extent they can make money on this, they can reduce their tipping fees. So that's considered in what the tipping fees are. So while you, the conscious homeowner that processes organics in your backyard, don't get anything extra out of it other than free fertilizer for yourself and your friends. We are getting something out of it in that if the organics weren't used by the Midwacket and Sioux or whoever the processor is, we would probably have higher tipping fees because it'd be just going into the regular garbage, and that's a higher fee, I think. So we're getting something out of it, not you. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. And then on to the last speaker here. There was the comment that infrastructure should have been replaced in the past. I don't necessarily disagree with that. There is infrastructure that we're behind on. We are trying to get caught up in a number of areas, and because of that, we're seeing those costs both in utilities and the levy. There was the question about the AE2S survey. So this was sent to me by a resident back in early November, and I forwarded it over to council. The comment is fair that when this was presented at an open session, I did have some questions about it. When I pulled it up, at the bottom of the study, it says, in total, AE2S Nexus receives survey responses from 121 systems serving 5,000 or more. Substantial efforts were taken to report accurate data, although verification efforts were completed where possible. In some instances, data may not have been provided in full or fully verified. When I read that, I looked at some of the numbers and thought it was too good to be true. The number at the top really was the one that I invested in. Blaine was offered as a example earlier, and I don't dispute that. I didn't spend time on that. But in looking at White Bear Lake, on the figure that's been floating around, the total is, I think, $28.60. In going to the White Bear Lake utility fees page, 6,000 gallons is $14.56 with a service fee of $18.29 with a sewer of $36.80 with a storm of 7 for a total of $76.65. That's 3 times what's on this graph. Now,
That's why I brought up Blaine, because I have actual data.
sure. So for those that didn't catch that, maybe on TV, that Blaine was verified by the resident. The numbers for, as I shared in the last meeting, the numbers for Robbinsdale are pretty close. I'm not going to dispute those. Some of these, like I say, I didn't spend time on, but in looking at, the comparisons, it's not always apples to oranges. It's sometimes apples to artichokes in the age of the infrastructure. But also, you've heard me say a couple times tonight the philosophy of how this is done. When I looked this up out of curiosity to see generally how operations might be observed through White Bear Lake, we talk about the philosophy of utilizing levy dollars, the general levy, to pay for infrastructure. Their proposed levy, now I don't know where they're at. Robbinsdale proposed a levy increase of 8%, which was reduced to 6% tonight. In White Bear Lake, they proposed a levy increase of 22.55%. Now, there's different ways to pay for different things. Their age of infrastructure is different than ours. There's a million ways to break it down. All that's to say, we certainly recognize that these are rates that we want to keep as competitive as we can, while managing, again, the replacement of that infrastructure. As I'm going through these last notes, that switched on me. There was the comment about no fiduciary responsibility. We conduct an annual audit. Of course, that's available to anybody that wants to review those materials. Franchise fees being used in different communities for different things. Here in Robbinsdale, 50-50 split, again, as reported in our materials here in the packet. Half goes to streets and half goes to the general fund. So some of that does go towards utilities. And then, again, finally, the comment about transparency. I am constantly looking for ways to improve that. We put a ton of materials on the website. We host these public meetings. Now, I know that's not for everybody. I strongly encourage folks to give a call, shoot an email. It's difficult to put the proper materials together for, the 15,000 residents and those that visit us as to what goes into things, but we're not hiding things. Everything that's paid for, including the Xerox paper, gets approved by council. So whether a big process that requires an RFP, there's a transparent process to that. The voucher report that the clerk mentioned at the start of the meeting, that's literally the check run that went today. Council approves that. So all of that's available. Now, that's not to say, again, that's of the appetite to people to look that up, but if I can do a better job of getting that out, I happily look for those suggestions.
Comments by the council?
I have a few, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate everyone's comments. They're all good questions, and it's been helpful to kind of go through this process, but I wanted to talk a couple things. First, Richard McCoy, we're lucky to have Richard McCoy. He's our Public Works Director. He's the one that over 6 years ago brought up the fact that our infrastructure is crumbling and something needs to be done. So we've been planning this for not as long as we should have, but this wasn't just happening within the last year. We hired a consultant to help us figure out a way to increase these rates so we can have funds to manage not only the capital piece, but then also we have to maintain the new water treatment facility we just built. And we still have to build another water tower, correct? So we still have one more water tower to build over by North Memorial, so that's another capital expenditure. The alternative, so we chose to do a user-based fee. The alternative is, Gary, you brought this up, North Memorial, they're a nonprofit, and we have numerous churches that are also nonprofit. If we were to do a property tax, increase property taxes to pay for this, it'd be even a larger burden on our residents. So this way, all those individuals or businesses that don't pay taxes that use water are contributing to the infrastructure and the maintenance of it. So I think it's a big distinction there. I get it though, like the mayor brought up earlier, Excel's, they requested a 9% increase this year in 2024 in their rates. And so it's kind of a perfect storm, and we're cognizant of fixed incomes and the price of food and, you know, income staying the same. It's tough, but I think there's ways, like for those that have removed water softeners. I removed mine. It was $30 a month that I don't have to pay anymore. That kind of offsets this cost. But I think what we've done is, and what we put together is been very transparent. I know it's hard to see it over time, and you just get your bill and it kind of shocks you a little bit, but this is part of that transparency, is asking these questions, and we can tell exactly what we're doing with the money, and hopefully those questions have been answered. The one thing I mentioned, two people brought up, I think it was Melissa and Gary, about transparency and data, like maybe access to more data. I know you mentioned residents can contact the city, but I'd be curious what exactly you would like to see. So I would just encourage you to email me or any ward representative. If there's like specifics you'd like to see, let us know so we can make changes. I think those technological things are pretty easy to do when it comes to billing and the data that we have. I know we have the new meters, so for anyone that has one of those meters, if there are sudden changes, you should get a call. I know I've gotten them from, I think I was watering a new tree or something. So I got an email, hey, it looks like your water went up beyond your normal usage. So that's one benefit too with the investment in that technology, is we can eliminate some of those issues up front. I think that was all I had. Hopefully that everyone's questions got answered. If not, I'd say raise your hand, and hopefully the mayor will let you get some clarification. So that's it. Thanks.
Aaron?
Sure, yeah, I can go. Thank you. So I think, yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Councilmember Murphy just said. When it comes to transparency, I think there maybe is a distinction to be, and I don't have the specific answer for this, but you know, it's one thing to have, you know, access to the data and large data sets, but it's another thing to have, you know, the average person like myself, who's, you know, not well versed in a lot of these things. I'm not a, you know, city engineer. Have that data mean something to the average person. I think maybe simplifying it, or like having a way, and I think some of these things like this breakdown are really useful. So I think that also should be, I just want to add that to the conversation about transparency, is just making sure that it's not just a wall of data or a wall of information. Having it more digestible, I think, is a big component of that. And I think our communications team, not just with financial stuff, but with other city news and city happenings, are pretty good about that. And I would just reiterate, yeah, reach out to us, reach out to staff if you have some ideas around that. For the composting thing, I definitely think that we should push in whatever way, and I know, Tim, you said you don't have the answers right now, but I would love for us to benefit in some way from this compost service. I kind of believe in principle, you know, philosophically, the idea of composting and like the, you know, the benefits that are derived from it, but at the same time, like, I am disappointed that I have to now pay for something that I actually had a bin in the past, like when I first signed on to the program. I used it for a year or two, didn't feel like I used it enough, so I got rid of it. But now it's like, okay, I have to redo or buy into something that I kind of know I'm not going to use. So I think if we can somehow, get benefits for the community and have those be visible to people, whether that's through, I love the idea of getting, free high nutrient dirt for your garden, things like that would be excellent to see. Or just a way to lower the cost of the service that we're now having to pay for, whether we can get reimbursed for the compost we're providing to whichever provider's picking it up. Also, I think when it comes to the composting thing, the information that will be like disseminated about it, I think also just like over time, if we have like, tips, to avoid, if there's a way to, not have animals get into it. I also like wonder about like in the winter here, like stuff just gets frozen to the bin. Like I feel like when I had it before, it's like half of it doesn't even come out. So if there's like, compostable bags that are better for liquids, whatever, any of that information I think would be super helpful to know and to have. Onto the water bill, the proposed increases with that. I think a couple things come to mind. I don't want to rehash stuff people have already talked about. We all have to pay that same water bill rate, and I think we need to get creative on other ways to, I guess, offset those costs or other ways to pay for it besides just increasing the utility rate or like property taxes, which are there for tools for us to use. But other cities have implemented like sales tax programs. So they'll like put something on the ballot and say like, do you, as the citizenry agree to raise or to have a sales tax, and then you have to specify what that sales tax can be used for. I think having a small sales tax for things like water infrastructure could go a long way and would be great, because a lot of people come into Robbinsdale and spend money. So it wouldn't just be like, unlike property taxes, unlike utility rates, the cost of that would be not just on residents and our neighbors. And then also talking with the state, I think we've kind of talked about that a lot, like having an ongoing and a better relationship with our state legislators, and getting just direct relief from the state, because I think we are unique in a lot of ways. Like our water treatment facility that just opened is kind of state of the art. We got a lot of kudos from the industry and things like that, and so I think that deserves maybe a little bit more attention, a little bit more love from the state as a whole when it comes to, I guess, direct financial relief for projects like that. And then the last thing, waste management contract. I think I'm definitely open to finding a new provider in the upcoming for the new RFP. I'm excited to see what kind of other options we have, because I'm also frustrated with our service. At least I think it's gotten a little bit better this year, but I think on the whole it's definitely something that we need to revisit and rework. So I just wanted to put that out there too, and hope council kind of supports kind of that reviewing of things with that. So anyway, those are my things. Thank you everyone for coming out and giving us your input. It's really, really helpful. And
thank you to all of you who were present, whether or not you came up to the microphone to share your comments or ask your questions. You are such an important part to this process. So even for one meeting towards the middle of December, know that we as a council are thinking and talking about you and your concerns that we hear from you throughout the year, including this meeting, in our working sessions. So as Tim mentioned, this process is quite a long process, so we've been working on this for months. And I want to give a lot of thanks to the staff. Thank you, Dia Tuhun, for your presentation tonight. I know there's a lot of work that goes into that, as well as the rest of the staff who helps to take our feedback and put that together into a budget that we believe makes sense for the residents of Robbinsdale. So I won't echo all of the sentiments that Regan and Aaron shared that I also agree with. I do think in terms of transparency for the residents like myself, I have really appreciated something like this where this is feedback that came from council where, how can we help to take really complex and sometimes hard to digest information and make it a little bit more accessible. So I want to thank staff for putting these kinds of things together to make a lot of this work make a little bit more sense. With that, I will pause there, but again, want to thank everyone for your input and for your great questions tonight.
So I'll try not to repeat what the council members said because they all made excellent points. I hope that if I came as a citizen to a meeting that I was sort of annoyed at the increases that I am annoyed at, even as a ratepayer myself, that I would be as polite as you all are. I mean, there's this is a thing where it's affecting your pocketbook, and the increases are something we haven't seen in the past due to large things like market forces and cost of materials and things like that. So I appreciate how nice everybody is, really nice and calm. I would only say a couple things that they didn't emphasize as much, but the rest of the council members and the staff know. Transparency, we will continue to work on that. We have a person for the first time that is works 70% of her time as a communications person, and I was at the tree lighting tonight, and somebody came up to me and she said that, boy, lately we've had a lot more information and transparency from the city, and I attributed that to having a person that's solely responsible for that. Now, that position will go up a little more because one of the budgetary things we had is a sustainability person. So I would think the person that's now 70% communications and about 30% sustainability and things like that will have more time to communicate. And I also think the sustainability person will be able to contribute things to the rest of the staff, including the communication staff, that these are things that you can do to limit your water bill, and get those communications out to people more so that your costs of these utilities go down. We have in the past at times said, let's not raise the rates so much, let's not raise taxes so much. People can't afford it, and so we haven't paid as much attention to infrastructure as we could have, even though we always had 10-year plans and we always paid attention to it. Cities like Golden Valley that are just a little bit behind us, we having been started in 1893 and our pipes having been put in the 1920s and 1918s and 1940s. Cities like Golden Valley are kind of behind us, and they're already trying to change laws in order for them to be able to afford what they can see coming, which is the kind of infrastructure rehabilitation and entirely reworking that we have. And so part of what you're paying is like there are big projects like on Hubbard Avenue this year and France and 36th that me as a property owner, if I live there or own property there, I pay for maybe about 22% of that, or maybe 16 or 18% of the entire digging up of the street and putting new water mains, sewer mains, sanitary drainage mains, and sanitary sewer and sidewalks in. So part of these fees that you're paying now are going into infrastructure so that in the future, when this big giant dig up the whole thing project comes to your block, you won't be paying so much because you're contributing overall to everybody. So that's part of the deal. And I just go back to the comments that the rest of the council members made and try not to repeat those, and then indicate that Bottom line is, I understand, but and we're trying to do as a council that, wow, I'm looking at these utility bills and they are going up a lot. So we will be mindful of the fact that we're in competition with other cities, even though they might have higher tax rates and get the money somewhere other way. And we understand that whether you're on a fixed income or not, this is a lot of money to pay. So we'll try to communicate better and get you some ways that you can save some money on these things and not make it so bad. So, is there a motion? Have we done anything yet? Okay. So, is there a motion to adopt these rates?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that we waive the reading and order the adoption of the resolution establishing city water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, solid waste, and streetlight rates in the city of Robbinsdale effective for all usage after January 1st, 2024.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
More discussion?
I was just gonna, one other comment. You know, another alternative would be to have a special assessment or a special levy where other cities have done this. Crystal did this for some infrastructure where it's, say, $6,000 per household to just pay up front, take the costs of, say, a capital improvement, and then everybody pays $6,000. I also think that's something that probably a lot of people don't want to do. Maybe we do, I don't know. But that's another option. But again, I think this way, with these increases, it's a smaller amount of money spread over a longer period of time. It's easier for residents to deal with it. And then also, the burden is really spread out not only across different residents, but for those that move or leave. Because it'd be nothing worse than you just moved to Robbinsdale and all of a sudden, boom, you got a $6,000, assessment. But this way, now it's okay, so you have a, $20 increase. Maybe you live here for 6 years, and that next person will, be paying for the infrastructure as well. So the burden is shared for, people that are going to be living here, not just people living here right now. So I just wanted to mention that as another alternative. Thank you.
Well, that's particularly true of the water treatment plant, $34.5 million, 1% loan on that money. If we just would have dipped into savings, like we have $34.5 million, no, but if you could have, or assessed everybody $5,000 or $10,000, that would be those people today, just like you're saying.
Right.
And now, with a 1% loan, we don't have to wait around and wait until we've saved up at $34.5 million and the costs we're paying 1%. Meanwhile, the costs would have gone up 20-30%. So,
right.
And then just like you're saying, the person that lives here 21 years from now is helping pay off that water treatment plant will pay her share for the years that she lives there.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, other comments? Let's have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Parisian,
Yes.
Councilmember Wagner,
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy,
Yes.
Mayor Blonigan.
Yes, that motion carries. New business is the next thing. We have no new business tonight. And after that, we have other business, voucher requests pending approval for paying for the bills that have been incurred. And we've been given a copy of that here tonight. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move we approve the voucher requests.
Second.
Any discussion about the requests? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. Administrative reports. Administrators, do you have any reports?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, just briefly, I want to again thank council for the work that goes into the levy, the budget, and utility fees. As I stated before, this is the most difficult and complicated set of decisions that you have to make, certainly a months-long process. I've been in circumstances where it's maybe less civil I know this council doesn't always agree on things, but came to terms in, I think, a fantastic way, and am appreciative of that, so I offer my thanks. Would also like to offer my thanks to the staff for all the work that goes into this, certainly Mr. Tahoon, the finance director, the finance department heads, and all staff has had a way to participate this time around, and that goes back to the goal-setting session that we hosted with council back in March. I want to offer my thanks to those that came out for the tree lighting tonight. Nice crowd. I think it helped that it was seasonably okay. I want to share with council more to come on this, but last week the clerk and I were able to attend the first inaugural Race Equity Index. This is a survey that we completed over the summer. We just got results back in November. They're high-level results, and we're working through what this looks like. And being a first time through, there's some room for interpretation, but we look forward to having that discussion in months ahead. And then would finally share that as a reminder, council will have a work session next week, followed by the EDA. And then on December 19th, City Council wraps the year, and highlights will include the 10-year CIP and the street plan.
Okay. Anything more from the administration? Okay, once around the table, Councilmember Parisian.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to thank all the folks who came out for the tree lighting earlier this evening as well. Really beautiful event, and it was nice to see some of our public safety folks there. It was great to see Santa roll up in the fire truck. I will admit I thought there was a fire to tend to, but then once Santa arrived, it was a welcome sigh of relief. So it was a great event. Thank you for those of you who were able to be there. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Wagner.
Yeah, just thanks to everybody that came out for the lighting celebration. It was really cool to see a bunch of people. And yeah, thanks to the police department and the fire department for kind of staffing what they had to do, and for the fire department for escorting Santa to the tree. That was cool. And also to Public Works for actually doing the task of wiring up the tree, as it were, and turning it on. So thank you to them, and kind of extending the evenings for some of those folks. So really appreciate it. And also, I believe the event is put on by the Robbinsdale Chamber of Commerce. So thanks to those folks for organizing it. And then just wanted to send out my condolences to the family of Sherry Ross. It's really sad to hear about that. So. And I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving, and see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you. Councilmember Murphy.
I have nothing this evening, thanks.
I would, the whole council is sad that one of our employees, Sherry Ross, passed away over the weekend, and she still worked here. She's worked here for a long time. She's had some health problems. She got a she's talked to me about this. She had a heart transplant many years ago, so I'm thankful, and she was too. I've seen her many times, and she's expressed the fact that she was thankful that she could get extra new life out of the new heart, but it still is very sad that she ended her life really before she could even her life ended, I should say it that way, before she could even retire and enjoy the pension she had built up. But she was a great employee and really helped Robbinsdale for a long time. I do want to thank everybody that was involved in the tree lighting also, including my wife, who led the singing, and I'm fully capable of leading the singing, but I couldn't do it as well as she did by a long shot, so I'm glad that she did that. I want to remind us that there are, in addition to getting revenue from taxing people, we can get revenue from higher returns on our investments. So I want to continue to explore that, especially as we go into the new year. Even if it's only on a test basis, we have this new rule that allows us to invest 15% of certain reserves at higher interest rates, especially through the Minnesota State Board of Investment. So I want to make sure we do that, even if it's on a low risk test basis. With that, I also, I guess I want to thank the staff, even though we probably already did, for the work they did on the budget. I mean, we come to the budget hearings and we come to the budget sessions, and there is a lot of material. It's laid out in a way that you can understand it, even though you have to study it a lot. And there aren't surprises like, oh, we forgot to tell you last year that this projection was going to be way off and we're going to have to increase our taxes because we were way off. We're always conservative, and we usually have more money left at the end of the year than we thought. And this year we're dipping into reserves, but I think we'll be able to bring those down if we're conservative like we have been in the past. So with that, unless anybody has anything else, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion carries. We are adjourned.